Bottle.It podcast number 1, the road to Kona. Now, there's a sentence that I felt much more comfortable saying when it was Reece Corbishley going to Kona, and it was going to be him racing on the lava. To sit here and be talking to camera and talking down the microphone about my own journey and my own, quest to be at that start line and, race representing Bottle.It and representing the flow and representing you guys has made me quite uncomfortable. It's probably the reason why it's taken so long to get this podcast up and running, because first thing first, when you get told, you're going to be racing at Kona, imposter syndrome got loud real quick. You're surrounded by athletes that have trained for years, spent thousands of dollars on the pursuit to get literally that gold ticket to go race at Kona, and kind of to almost have it fall in my lap by comparison from the Ironman team, when I'm not a sub 10-hour athlete. I'm not an age group champion. I'm not in the top 10 of my age group. I'm a larger athlete. I'm 6'4", 110 kilos at the moment. I was 124 kilos when I found out I was going to be racing Kona. I was intimidated and overwhelmed, and massive amounts of, like I said, imposter syndrome. I had like anxiety about how I would look in my suit compared to the other athletes in their race suit, knowing that the BMIs are completely different. And it did kind of take a little while to get comfortable with the idea that I was at the start line, and I have earned my spot at the start line, not through the traditional routes of the rest of the athletes that will be lining up, but through Bottle.It's ability to share awareness and have these community initiatives and community building movements where we celebrate positive mental health and the pursuit of positive mental health. So my journey with PTSD was documented by the Ironman Oceania team in 2022, where we took a race team up, myself and 4 mates, and raced up there. So I'm going to put that link in the bio to go watch that documentary. So if you want to learn a little bit more about myself, my journey with PTSD, my pursuit of doing an Ironman, it's all available in that documentary. It's an amazing doco, and it tells the story far better than I could even try to tell it now. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the history of Bottle.It and our first Ironman event, please go watch that, get around that. It's an amazing doco and something that I still find myself at times going back to watch. And I'm extremely thankful for the Ironman team for picking that up and running with it. So we've stayed active in the community because it's so important to stay vocal and stay active with these mental health things. A large reason why Bottle.It exists is to become the positive rather than the negative. A lot of other mental health foundations and campaigns, they use negative statistics or data to kind of promote the awareness, and and we definitely are aware that the dark exists, and that side of mental health is 100% real. We've experienced it, we've lived it, and we've moved over towards the positive. And what we found, whilst existing in that space, is that there wasn't many foundations or movements or charities, to a degree, offering a kind of orange light remedy for mental health. So there's definitely the red light things and the preventions and the awareness for when you get to the point where it's you're at breaking point, but there needed to be something that exists in the orange, and that's where Bottle.It exists. So we celebrate athletes and individuals, and basically activities that can empower your own mental health and provide a sense of purpose and accountability, and encourage planning and basically supporting others while supporting yourself. It was something that it's grown as we've rolled, and we found really quickly that the Ironman, training for an Ironman, had a lot of similarities with your own being progressive with your own mental health. So the partnership it fits hand in hand, and it celebrates the Ironman community while encouraging others to kind of become accountable for their own mental health. There is so much that we take away from building for an Ironman. Like I said, a few of those key words that I just shared there: accountability, of just staying accountable to a plan, working out what your goals are, working out what you want to do, where you want to be, and just becoming relentless with your pursuit of just wanting to show up for yourself. Purpose is a big one, and Ironman offers a great purpose. So when you buy an Ironman ticket, a 70.3 ticket, or when you buy a ticket to an event, that becomes your purpose for a large amount of months, or even years. And it's kind of the best way to go through life is with that purpose. And by learning that the purpose that a ticket for an event can bring, you can start to put that into other things. Like your purpose becomes, whether it's being a better member of your family, or whether it's being at work, or being better for yourself. You can kind of find purpose in a few more smaller items day to day to make yourself feel really, I don't know, it's kind of like, it just feels better when you're moving with a sense of purpose. It makes you feel like you belong and you're working towards something rather than just treading the water of life. Support. Now, this is a huge one. Support of others. Ironman is an individual event, but you learn pretty quickly that the support of others can take you a long way. And once you start to use that support networks made available through the community, through your own friendship circles, it becomes a whole lot easier than it was when it was on your own. So we really lean on the support element. But then we also kind of move that support from the support of others to the support of yourself, how you talk to yourself and how you motivate yourself and how you encourage yourself to stay really active, especially physically, but also mentally. Like taking stock in how well you're doing, and making change in your life or in change in your mental health space. It's kind of, any type of change is hard, but staying positive with what's going on with yourself. So that's a little bit of a rundown as to why we kind of love this space and exist in this space. And that's the kind of the key components that we share to our athletes and to anyone else that's following us on social media. It's just a few key points that we like to reiterate, and our athletes kind of celebrate and grow from that. And we kind of love that we use individuals within the community, within their own community, to kind of build that messaging and build that kind of positive support network for themselves. But then you see it flow on through others. So that's where the growth in Bottle.It has come from. Is so much as it started with my story, and then we had four of my close mates that just lined up and were keen to race in the floral. It's gone from five athletes who debuted at the 2022 Ironman Australia in Port Macquarie, to moving forward, some numbers now for the data nerds. We've gone on to 26 finishes, 26 Ironman finishes over the last 2.5 years, which is huge. We're not a triathlon club. We're not a coaching group. We're literally a movement founded on individuals on the pursuit of positive mental health. And to have 26 athletes across Cairns, Port Macquarie, Bustleton, Taupo Ironman, it's kind of a really, really nice feeling. Out of those 26, we've had 3 of them go on to wear the suit multiple times to multiple events, which is always a nice little affirmation that, we like to think that the suit's performance enhancing and the floral flies, and it's proof in those athletes that go again. We've been really lucky to have 2 athletes in the last 2 years race at World Championships. We had Reece Corbishley in 2022 at Kona, and Brent McKinnon raced in 2023 at Nice Ironman. So to be represented on the world stage so early in our growth as a movement and as a foundation, it's absolutely amazing. It was great to see the floral on the world stage, and those guys did it proudly. So yeah, thanks to those guys. It is kind of incredibly nerve-wracking and exciting at the same time to be the 3rd athlete in floral in the 3rd year at the World Championships. I think that moves us to just that. Myself going to Kona. It's something that I watched Reece race in 2022. I was fortunate enough to be on the other side of the world anyway with a family holiday, and I just timed my flight to come back through Kona to be able to watch one of my close mates race the world champ in the floral. Now that was a huge kind of insight into the sport and how big it is globally, but also how hard this event is. It's immense. And in the lead up to going to watch him race, I started speaking to a few other athletes, Crowe, Nat from Trimob, a few other guys that I know from the area who had been to watch Kona. And every athlete I was asking, or everyone that had been sidelined, I was asking, hey, what's the go with Kona? What's the go with Kona? I want to learn more about Kona before I go to Kona. If I'm going to be documenting this journey for Reece, I want to know, what to look for, blah, blah, blah. Every single response was, it's hot. Whether that was a numerous world champion or someone who had just been sidelined to watch, their first response always was, it's hot. it got to the point with after a few conversations where I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like, come on, like there's got to be more to Kona than that. Like, there's got to be more. Like, it's hot. We know what hot is in Australia. Like, we've got Cairns Ironman's done in the humidity of far north Queensland. Busso's done in the heat of the west. It's also windy at Busso. Port can get quite hot in the middle of the day, not so much at the start, at the end. But it's like we've experienced heat. Like, I couldn't figure out why the go-to was heat, and then flying to Kona, hop off the plane. It's like, fuck, it's hot. It's all consuming. The heat is all consuming. It has the humidity of Cairns, the dry, hot heat of the sun that you get from like maybe West Sydney in the middle of the day, or Port Macquarie in the middle of the day, and it has heat from the ground, which is the one that threw me, because the lava itself warms up throughout the day and stays warm throughout the night. So you have, as much as you want to hide in the shade, there's still heat coming from below you. So even on the sideline, when we're watching Reece race, we were running for shade. Like, we couldn't stay in the direct sunlight for more than 5 minutes without being just overwhelmed. And to be in that environment, and also like having a hydration strategy to support somebody whilst watching, there was Katie Ramond, Scotty Ramond, Reece, just over there racing, and some of the fittest humans that, you know, some of the fittest, fastest humans that I know. And after watching them train immensely for months at a time, it was just incredibly intimidating to watch them melt. Every single one of them pushed themselves to the limits and beyond. And I was just in awe of not only the athletes that I knew, but the athletes from around the world that were literally running red line in conditions that weren't designed to be running. Like, it is, you could not pick worse conditions to have an Ironman in. It is kind of cruel. You got this warm water swim where you're swimming in a fish tank, like a tropical fish tank where there's turtles and dolphins and fish, but the water's warm too, so you can't wear a wetsuit. So they've taken away one of the things that makes life a little bit easier on a swim. They've just taken that away. And then you go out in the bike course, and as much as it's lacking the elevation of some of the other Ironman courses, it's done on a highway with no shade, no wind protection on the coast. So you know that wind's going to whip up at some stage of the day, and you're not quite sure of which direction. It swings around, it's strong, so you can't use a disc wheel. Deep dish, you run the risk of, being blown off your bike. So they take that advantage away from you. And then by the time you get off the bike, you're smack bang in the middle of the day, middle of the heat, and then you've got to run a marathon out on that same highway. So I was blown away. I was asked twice. I was asked by Craig from Ironman and Greg from Koa, who was doing a podcast in 2022. They asked me sideline, what do you reckon? Would you race here, or how'd you go? And it was no. It's a hard no from me. Like, it's just, there's nothing about Kona that even if the opportunity presented itself in 2022, I was a hard no. I was like, I can't imagine how you would be in a position that this would be fun. I'm never in the position to be I'm never in the position to be in the top 10 of my age group to qualify to go to Kona. B, I don't think I'd want to. Like, it scares me. And then probably over the next 2 years of watching athletes race and seeing, I think, what the Bottle.It can provide in inspiration, not only for myself watching other athletes. I've been to every red carpet, and I've seen anyone who owns a floral suit. I've been lucky enough to see them finish through the support of Bottle.It, and sacrifices made by myself and my wife financially to be on the red carpet to watch these athletes finish. It is overwhelming, and it literally fills my bucket with inspiration that when you have an opportunity presented to yourself, like something as big as a Kona ticket, I had to say yes. There was no hesitation. It was a yes straight away. This is an opportunity to literally practice what you preach, get out of your comfort zone, reapply some of your own messaging to yourself, and literally go for it. And that's where this podcast starts. It's kind of been an uncomfortable couple of months, and I've needed to fall back on some of the Bottle.It messaging. And I've also needed to fall back on the Bottle.It community. There are some key people that have become a big part of my life thanks to the floral and supporting the floral, that in the last few months have really stood up. And the DMs, daily DMs from Damo, I get like the DMs from other supporters just backing me and just saying, hey, we're with you. You've got this, we're with you. And it has become it went from so scary. Had day one of my training for Kona, I rolled my ankle off a footpath and did ligament damage, so I wasn't able to run for 5 weeks. And that was when I was 124 kilos and I was freaking out. I'm like, maybe this is a sign that it's just not, it's not meant to be. Like I shouldn't be pushing myself. I'm a 38-year-old dad. I was between jobs at the time. I was like, maybe this is a little bit unachievable. And we just had this kind of grit and support of my wife and support of a few close mates that were just, they were all in. It wasn't going to be, there wasn't an option to not take this opportunity and run with it, and made some sacrifices, and through effective planning, I think planning with a bit of self-reflection and knowing what I was looking for and not comparing myself. I think that's another one that we're going to start pushing. And like, comparison can be the thief of joy. And when you're comparing yourself with other Kona athletes that are freaks, absolute freaks, they've trained for years, they've just absolute freaks, and then you realize that, hey, that's there's myself, and then there's Daylight, and then there's those guys. By comparing my training and my approach to those, they're not going to stack up. It's not going to be the same. However, that's not to dismiss what you can take away from the pro athletes and the age groupers that are at it. Their commitment is no different to any of the other age groupers' commitment to getting up and doing something daily. Yes, the numbers are different, but that mindset and that mental toughness required to go day in, day out, even when you don't want to, is something that, whether you finish first or you finish last in an Ironman, it's the same across the board. So it's been rough. Like I said, dealing with imposter syndrome, dealing with trying to lose weight, when in my past, I'm a stress eater. I literally, I freak out. When stress happens in my life, my comfort is food. It's just what it is. It's how I've always been. So when you have the stress of Kona and the stress of, not only the stress of trying to lose 20 kilos, but the stress of having to raise 20 grand to cover flights, accommodation, and a few other things, like, it was stress 24/7. There wasn't a night I didn't go to bed thinking about it and wake up thinking about it. A, what do I need to do to lose the weight? B, what do we need to do to raise the money? So we kind of needed to shift things around. And then one of those things was going back to work 5 days a week to help the income. So yeah, Bottle.It has kind of taken its foot off the gas a little bit in regards to how much we've been able to put out through social media and how much we've been able to do at other events. However, they're the sacrifices that we've kind of had to make to make sure that the World Championships happen. And I'm so proud of the sacrifices that myself and my wife and my son have had to make this reality. And now that I'm sitting here with everything's booked, paid for, secured, the training's done, almost done. I'm so happy with just almost how much stress we had to go through to get to this point. It's been a really cool learning tool, and at the time, it felt like everything was kind of on fire around us, and it's really nice to be sitting here at the moment going, no, it was all worth it. It was it's all come good, and everything's worked out the way it was meant to work out. So I think I'm gonna wrap the episode up here. That's a good 18-minute nudge of me just dribbling, and hopefully there's some substance in that. I'm frothing. I'm absolutely excited, and like I said, when I first recorded this episode, it wasn't right. It wasn't how I wanted to present it. It wasn't how I was feeling, and I wanted to make sure when I did it again, I did it in a far more positive headspace than I was when I recorded the first one, and that's what you're getting. I have had demons pop up since finding out about it, Kona. Like I said, I had the stress of changing jobs and trying to figure out how to lose weight and how to raise money, and so many different moving parts going on around us. And to be at this point now, I said to Ali, after I recorded the episode, I just had a bit of a moment of clarity that, as much as the weight loss has been amazing, I'm back with a mental clarity now that I didn't think I'd ever have again. It was really rough. I lost my mum in June last year, and it's taken me a lot longer than, I can't even say proud to admit, it's just taken me a lot longer to process that than I thought it was going to. I thought I had processed that. I hadn't. And the minute when there was more stress put on me in regards to training and financial income, it started to get really noisy in my head. And I just accepted the last, 8 months, I just accepted that as reality. I just thought that was going to be the headspace that I was in. My perspective had changed on, I don't want to say reality, that sounds really heavy, but my day-to-day perspective of life had changed significantly, and I just got comfortable with thinking that was the way I was going to be for the rest of my life. And to be honest, that was fairly almost depressing. It was I was trying my best to be comfortable with it, but I wasn't comfortable. This through training for this and putting some priorities back in my life and cutting some fat away, both physically and metaphorically in my life, it's just cleared my head so much. And yeah, as much as I'm stoked to be racing Kona and I'm stoked to have lost a significant amount of weight, the real takeaway from this journey so far is the mental clarity that I'm sitting here now with. I love Ironman for what it can literally change your life, but what you learn about yourself in the training and the process, and just by moving some structures around your life, what you can actually teach yourself about how much more enjoyable you can make life when you start prioritizing health, using support networks and just getting excited about things in your future. Life becomes a much happier place to exist. So hopefully you've enjoyed the ramble. Hopefully you're going to enjoy a few more. I've got some key stories too that have unfolded in the last few months. I've had people that have just literally come out of the woodworks and support in vital moments without them even realizing how vital those moments have been. I've had sponsors and people come on board to help. By sponsors, I've been products come on board that have really helped. So I'm always a bit shy of pushing products because I feel like I'm an influencer and I'm definitely not a pro athlete. However, I've been really mindful to pick products that are useful. They work. It's not one of those things where you see me pushing this year and the next year I'm jumping into bed with someone else. These are all products that I've used, I spend my own money on, and they're jumping on board to help the floral over the next couple of years. So I'm excited to start sharing little podcasts. They're going to be all short and sweet. And then as I get over to Kona, I'm going to start interviewing athletes over there. I'm going to start talking to athletes in the next few weeks and just finding out what they've learned about themselves and what they're very excited to learn about Kona and how much they're freaking out or they're excited about the Queen K. So if you have any questions, I'm really encouraging people to ask questions because, like I said, as the Ironman Oceania ambassador, I want to take as many people to Kona as I can. I want to inspire as many people as I can to do their first Ironman, to do Kona Ironman. So if there's something that you've wanted to know about the World Champs or even an Ironman, please feel free to hit me in the DMs, hit me in the comments, and I'll answer it. And better yet, if I can't answer it, I'll find someone who can. So thank you for your time. Get excited. We're going to the big island. Cheers, guys.